And now to our interview with the guest of the day. I am now joined by the Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Festus Keyamo, who is also the spokesperson for the Presidential Campaign Council of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Keyamo, a senior advocate of Nigeria, SAN, and fellow of Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, is a lawyer, a columnist, and human rights activist. In April 2018, Keyamo was appointed as the Director of Strategic Communications of the 2019 re-election bid of President Muhammadu Buhari. He was appointed the Minister of State for Niger Delta in 2019 before he was redeployed to the Ministry of Labour and Employment by President Muhammadu Buhari. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, now let me start by congratulating you on the APC victory in the presidential election. How will you describe the battle?
Well, thank you so much. Congratulations to all Nigerians because the eventual winner of the election, which is Bola Tinubu, the president-elect, actually got his mandate from a cross-section of Nigerians from north, south, east, and west. He had votes from all parts of the country. So it's congratulations to all Nigerians. The battle was fierce. Nigerians saw that themselves. At times, it was a bit hot. At times, it was a bit tricky. But at the end of the day, God has a purpose for this country. God has a purpose for Asiwaju. And that is why today he's president-elect. And so we'll give all thanks to God Almighty.
All right, so despite huge challenges, the APC presidential candidate triumphed. How did APC win the presidential election?
Pardon me, how did we win it?
Yes, despite the challenges you mentioned. Well,
I'm sure you have tried to look at the results of the election. And it is clear, despite all the noise going on, especially by the opposition, it is clear that the voting pattern revealed by the results clearly reflects the type of campaigns carried out by some candidates of other parties. Now, we simply won that election by presenting a candidate that's a pan-Nigerian candidate, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. Asiwaju won his votes, like I said, from all the 6 regions in the country. It was only Asiwaju that won at least one state in 5 different regions in the country, except, of course, one particular region. The 3 leading candidates had 12 states each. Atiku Abubakar had 9 states in the north and 3 in the south. Peter Obi had 9 states in the south and 3 in the north central, not even in the core north. But Asiwaju Bola Tinubu had 6 states in the north and 6 states in the south. It clearly shows you the kind of spread and even, the balanced votes that he had from different parts of the country. Again, if you look at the results, from all different parts of the country, Asiwaju won 3 regions outright. Atiku had 1 region, only one region. And then Peter Obi won 2 regions. In all the regions, Asiwaju came second at least. Asiwaju never took third. And that is why he won the election. Because even in regions where he did not win, he came a close second. And in regions where he won by wide bets. For example, the Southwest region. So Asiwaju was the only candidate that had the votes across Nigeria, that received the votes of different sections, different demography of Nigerians. And while other candidates could not cut across certain parts of Nigeria to get the blessings of those parts of Nigeria. Now, it is no surprise, therefore, that it was only Asiwaju, the president-elect, that achieved the constitutional requirements of 2/3 of the states of the federation, of 1/4 of the votes in 2/3 of the states of the federation. I think Asiwaju got about 30 states, 1/4 in 30 states. Atiku Abubakar got about 21, and Peter Obi got about 16 or 17 states, the required 1/4 of the votes in those states. So it is obvious. There was only one winner at the end of the day. There was even no two. There was only one winner. You know, there was nobody who came close. That's the point I'm making. And there's even nobody, whether they go to court or anything, that can go to court and say, claims that he was also the winner and should be returned. Nobody can claim that.
All right, Mr. Keyamo, it's also important for us to talk about some of the surprises we saw during the presidential election, like the results in Lagos and Kano. What was responsible for that? Because we saw the APC losing up to 12 states.
Well, various factors are responsible for that. Of course, the Kano situation is very obvious. They had the son of the soil running, Rabi Kwankwanso running, and so naturally by the sentiments, that pervade our political terrain, they went with their son. But then there's something very significant about the Kano election, the result. Despite going with their son, a large, portion of Kano indigenes still saw Asiwaju as their own. It was even Atiku Abubakar, who is a northerner, that they did not even vote for. He could not even get about even 10% of the votes in Kano. That's very significant. The difference between Asiwaju, that came second in Kano, and Atiku Abubakar was about 500,000 votes, about 500,000 votes. That's the kind of wide, bet that Asiwaju, the president-elect, gave Atiku Abubakar in Kano. So, at the end of the day, and then of course, the Lagos vote is attributable to the fact that we have a mixture of different ethnicity, different types of people in Lagos State. And so you cannot see Lagos really as a state that houses a particular ethnic group. So Lagos is a mixture of different ethnic groups and different people and different religions also, because I think religion played a part in it. But even despite that, you can see that the difference wasn't so much at all. So even in areas where Asiwaju supposedly lost, it was very, very close. Asiwaju is grounded in all parts of this country.
All right, still talking about surprises. Mr. Keyamo, I'm sure the election results in your state, Delta State, also came to you as a surprise. Am I correct?
Well, yes and no. Well, we knew, of course, beforehand that the Labour Party would make inroads into the Southeast and the South-South. But let me tell you the most interesting thing about this. Now, the most interesting about this is that those inroads that the Labour Party made into Delta, the South-South states and the Southeast states, they were inroads into the, PDP strongholds. So they hardly scratched the APC. As far as I'm concerned, in most parts of Delta State, go and look at the results. In fact, we got 2 senators from Delta, Delta State, Delta Central and the Delta South. So even in Delta Central, we won for the APC. In my polling unit, for example, I delivered for the APC in the senatorial elections. We won. So the Labour Party actually made inroads into the South-South, which includes Delta State, mostly because a particular candidate whipped up religious sentiment. It was purely religious sentiment that they used to enter those states. But then, like I said, there's a limit to how much you can push religious sentiments in the country. You can see that it helped that candidate in a particular part of the country, pushing and preaching and campaigning on religious sentiment. But how far did he go? And if he runs 20 times, if he contests the election 20 times, there's a certain settled demography of this country that will not change. You cannot penetrate all parts of this country by relying solely on religious sentiments. A sitting president tried it and failed. And that demography, that particular sentiment will not go away in this country. The more you rely on religious sentiment, the more some other parts of the country become very suspicious of you, and they will not vote for you. So that is why you can see that you did not see Asiwaju in any mosque or church or trying to look for votes. He just talked to Nigerians, he begged Nigerians, and they voted for him. So the vote, coming back to your question, we are not surprised that Labour came to the South and the South to take away the votes of the PDP.
All right, so looking back at how the election played out, yes, your party won, but will you say the APC underrated the Labour Party in any way?
Well, we did not underrate the Labour Party. It was the PDP that actually underrated the Labour Party. You know, we kept saying it. And go and play back all my tapes, all the interviews, I granted leading up to the election, all the permutations we made, all the press releases some of us made. We kept saying that Peter Obi was the biggest favor to Asiwaju, and the best, the pathway to the presidency for Asiwaju was Peter Obi clearing the road for him. And we were proved right. So there was no time. I want you to know that there was no time we wrote off Obi, but we knew Obi was not going to win. And so we never, ever, projected Obi to win, but we projected Obi to decimate PDP. And he did actually decimate the PDP. So, I mean, there was an interview I granted, and I said it on a lighter mode, that the day Asiwaju will be sworn in, and I said this way back in December, that Peter Obi should be given a front row seat during the swearing in, because he will be one of the biggest factors that aided Asiwaju to become the president of this country. So, and that's why I tweeted about 2 days ago, and the thing went viral, that maybe the pastors who saw visions, and with all respect to them, that Peter Obi was God's chosen one, they didn't know that God raised Peter Obi for a purpose, and that purpose was to make Asiwaju president. Peter Obi was a means to an end, but he was not the end in itself. God raised Peter Obi for the purpose of Asiwaju becoming the president of this country, and it has come to pass.